Hey, I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I am speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, Modera.com or Modera.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candace, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you posts or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. All right, well, welcome to another edition of the Create the Ripple podcast. My name is Candace Smiley, and I am your host for today. I'm super excited for my guest this morning. She's got quite a background. I'm intrigued to be able to share a conversation with her today and talk about some really interesting things. Now, for those of you who listen on the regular, you'll be able to find all of the information and all of the notes to be able to connect with her or with myself down in the show notes below. We do our very best to make sure that everything is there for you. But without any further ado, I'd love for my guest to introduce herself to you, and then I've got some questions for her. So without any further ado, my dear, the call is yours.
Thank you very much, Candace. So I'm Dr. Joanny Liu. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I am a resilience mentor to athletes who want to have a long and prolonged successful career. Because apparently, and you may not even understand this or notice this, but the average career of a professional athlete is only 1.5 to 3 years. So they've spent an entire lifetime preparing for this, and yet 1.5 to 3 years may be all they get, unless, of course, they learn what it really is to be mentally resilient, because that hinges on everything, on your mental health, your physical health, how they handle obstacles, everything. And really, for any one of us, getting through a whole bunch of obstacles and crises is what really matters, is our mental resilience. Because I've had to get through my own challenges in order to get to where I am today. And well, my worst year of my life became my best year of life. So without further ado, take it over, Candace.
Well, first and foremost, I'm fascinated by this conversation around resilience. It's a word I've been thinking about in my own life, largely because I've been thinking about the concept first on emotional intelligence. I have a 6-year-old, and I think about this often because I'm like, how do I help her become emotionally intelligent, having seen in my own life, right? It's not necessarily what happens to me, but it's how I'm choosing to deal with it. And the impact of people around me who haven't been emotionally intelligent, or me looking back and thinking, oh my goodness, if I had known how to handle that, then, all of these things wouldn't have happened, right? Because you avoid some of those knee-jerk reactions. And so it's come a lot to this thought about resilience. And what does that mean? So I'd love to hear what the word resilience means for you. And then I have another question for you.
Okay. Well, first, I'm going to agree with you because definitely in my younger days, I wasn't nearly as resilient as I am today from learning all the lessons that I have. Because most people do have knee-jerk reactions. What it really comes down to, and it's really quite simple, is that every circumstance is temporary, even if it's really, really bad. And yeah, everybody talks about, what are you going to learn? What are you going to, basically, you got to learn a lesson from the things that happen to you. I mean, basically, it comes down mostly, we're talking about the bad things that happen to us. But we can also learn from the good things that happen to us when we realize that it was a certain way that we were acting. Okay. So do we want to repeat the bad stuff how we reacted to something that was really bad? Or is it how we want to repeat how we acted when something was really good?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have to have that self-awareness. But the main thing is that every obstacle, every circumstance is going to be temporary, good, bad, and neutral. So, how are we going to handle those bad situations? Knowing that they are temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are temporary, we make it temporary because of our attitude.
Mm-hmm.
If we go into it, okay, we basically, it really has to come down to, a lot of people will count to 5, or they'll count backwards from 5 or from 10 and take a breath. And or you can just be aware that, yeah, this is a challenge right now, but it's not forever. So how am I going to deal with this right now?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what resilience is about. It's about being able to pull back, look at the situation, and decide right away that you're going to just stay calm. Because, quite frankly, when we get all upset, we can't think.
Uh-uh.
And that's when we're making big mistakes. And if you're trying to make a big decision when you're upset, you're going to make a huge mistake.
I like how you chuckled a little. And I think most of my guests who would be listening are chuckling themselves because they're like, yeah, I have that experience, in my back pocket. I really think it's interesting, Dr. Joanny, because one of the things that I think a lot about right now, I'm currently going through a divorce, which is not, an uncommon experience anymore, but it's challenging. I wouldn't wish divorce on my worst enemy. But it's been certainly an incredible space for me to look at a lot of some of the thought patterns I have, a lot around emotional intelligence, a lot around things like resilience, because it does, it's catastrophic in the change, not just in my life, but also in the small human, who's unfortunately caught in the crossfire. And I was actually thinking today about the word resilience because I really am choosing to co-parent. And co-parenting can be challenging when you don't necessarily agree on some challenging things and there's emotions outside of that. So I think it's interesting how oftentimes these podcasts, I record them, but I'm fascinated by who I get to talk to. And the person I end up talking to that day is usually, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I needed to talk to you today. so I wanted to
Awesome.
just, say thank you again. And to my listeners, it's not coincidence that you're here listening about this. So I love that resilience because I also think about that. We love these moments when it's good, and sometimes it can be hard for people to not start to think about when the other shoe falls, right? That's been a big challenge for me in my life. It's good right now, but it may not be tomorrow. And so also learning resilience that if it isn't good tomorrow, I've got skills and coping mechanisms and I've, already weathered my worst days up until now. I will be able to handle that moving forward. And you had alluded
Yeah.
to the worst year of your life becoming the best year of your life. I would say 2020 was that for me. I was coming into 2020 looking at my best year financially. I was in a really great place. I was in a great relationship. And within the first 3 months, 4 months of the year, of course, everything just sort of changed or stopped. Relationships ended, businesses changed, partners, left. And I mean, all of it, I can look back now a year and a half later and say it was all very good. There's nothing bad that happened, but there was certainly a moment that last year really has inspired how I'm moving forward in my life now. So I would say that the worst year of my life has definitely become the best year of my life. So I'd love to hear the story, if you're comfortable sharing with us, about your worst year and how you've transitioned that. Because I'm sure there are people in my audience who have their heads up being this. Me too, me too. Tell me your story of how you got from there to here.
Well, I was in my mid to late 30s. I was a professional engineer. Um, and I really hated the job that I was working. And I really hated my boss. I mean, if there was anybody who wanted to make things difficult for you, this guy could do it for you. And, you
Okay.
know, and it wasn't even just me outside my own department. He wasn't well liked or respected. So, yeah, there are some difficulties on all kinds of sides. But personally, I really didn't know how to handle that bad situation. And I didn't really realize just how bad it was going to be. But but I had transferred out of his department, so that was a good thing. And I was starting a new job when I discovered that I was pregnant. Now, okay, normally this wouldn't be a bad thing, I guess, except that my we had sent my husband to be snipped. And so there was supposed to be no more pregnancies, no more worrying about getting pregnant. And we had planned our future with just our two little boys, whom we love so much. But we knew that we couldn't financially and especially emotionally support another child. So that's why the decision was made. And so I found myself pregnant and what to do, what to do. Well, we had a very difficult discussion that one fateful night, and we decided that we were going to have an abortion. And it was so tough. It was so tough. I mean, there was crying, there was a lot of going back and forth, but we knew it was the best decision. And so my doctor made the arrangements. We went in and we had the abortion. I mean, the nurses at the hospital were so understanding because they know how hard it is for a married woman who already has kids to make that decision. And when I woke up from the anesthetic, I had tears in my eyes. So right up to that point, it was hard. But okay, we thought, this is over. But a few days later, I mean, I still had the feeling of being pregnant. And so with my greatest fear, I mean, you just never think of, vasectomy failing and then that not working too. But a doctor at a walk-in clinic did an ultrasound on me and he wouldn't let me see what was going on, of course. And he told me, yeah, the fetus is still there and it's still, oh. And then he told me it was a little girl. I asked him, is it a little girl? And he said, yes, it's a little girl. And I always wanted a little girl. So that was even worse. Okay. And so I went to my own doctor and I asked her, is it possible to save this pregnancy? And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, Joanie, you don't want to do this. The baby has been damaged and I don't even need to see the pictures. You can't bring this child into this world, because I know women who have done it and they just can't make good out of bad. And their own marriages break up, their families break up because of all the guilt and the shame that surrounds around this. So these women are actually punishing themselves for the mistake that they made. So, she told me the truth. And so I went ahead with another abortion. And so to go through it once was hard enough, to go through it twice and knowing that you had made a mistake, and it was just awful. So it worked. It worked. And then I buried the story for 25 years until 2018. I was talking to one of my speaking coaches, and he said, we need a poignant story from you, Joanie. Is there anything that you've never told anybody? And for some reason, that just came up right away. And so I told him what happened, and that is my signature story. The thing is that I've never told it in complete detail because, it was supposed to be wrapped up in a 5-minute speech. So it was really short. But fast forward to 2019. Yeah, 2019. And I'm practicing my speech. And this very intuitive woman had listened to my speech like 5 times during these practices. And she came up to me and she said, your little girl is right here on your left shoulder. And everything is okay. There's no forgiveness. There's no issues. She's just by your side all the time. And she's just helping you with whatever you need. So, man, there was shock. There was surprise. There was relief. Definitely a few tears. But it's all good. And so she's been beside me all this time and helping me with whatever decisions I've had to make since that point. And of course, I've learned through all that time on my own that The resilience part has to be learned, because otherwise you're going to go insane. You're going to go insane. So because of all the stress from working a job that I hated and having this happen to me at the same time, I truly believe that it led to a cancer scare that I had in that same year. So, and more surgery, but nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. I didn't have to go through treatment or anything. The biopsy just explained what was happening. It was just inflammation, and thank God for that. But the thing is that my thinking had a real turnaround, because I realized that I had to start living life on my own terms. So, I stuck with the job merely because of a pension, merely because of external things like that, and because of other people's expectations of me. And so I started standing up. I stood up to my boss. I stood up to other people, mainly my family, my husband, right? So I wasn't going to be conventional anymore. I was going to do the things that I wanted to do. So I left that job and started contracting and consulting. Loved it. Made a lot of money during Y2K. And then things dried up and things had to change again. At which point I decided, well, okay, what would really make me happy following my real values? I mean, knowing what those values are. And so it led me to researching a number of different career directions, but finally settled on traditional Chinese medicine, which definitely introduced me to the mental part of health. However, their teaching doesn't really take you very far, because it's still about treating the physical body, and that wasn't enough. So all my real teachers came to me after I graduated.
I am incredibly intrigued and honored that you would share your story in full in that way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I am often, well, I'm speechless first, but I'm often amazed at the power that our stories have. And I think about this a lot, right? Because of course everything is on social media these days, which is its own narrative, right, of our lives. But it's very surface, and there's something really magical and powerful when somebody says, hey, this was hard and it happened to me. Even though joy is, the most vulnerable emotion, at least that what we hear, but, it's hard to come back to that place, right, after something like you've been through. But what an amazing experience to know that your daughter is still there and holding space with you and for you. I didn't have an abortion, but I did lose a baby, and for a number of years, and even now and today, I have a sense of her energy, which I don't talk about a lot. Because I keep a lot of that stuff close to the chest, but it warmed my heart when I heard that, and I thought, oh, I'm not the only one, and how powerful that's been in my own life, especially when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, who is Earthside, and just the impact of that I'd sort of had this, precursor and was prepared, and I raised my daughter largely on my own with an incredible support network, right? My parents and people around me. So, I've single mom is a term I use very lightly. Because the buck might stop with me, but there's some amazing people who have stood in the gap. But certainly that energy was there and often felt very, very close. So, and now I'm actually pregnant again with our next baby, and
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing October. I'm very excited about it. But like you, really had to come to a place of like, okay, what do I really want? And realizing certainly like 2020 was very much the cap year for that. But for a number of years before that, there was this niggle, which of course is the name of the podcast, Trust the Niggle and Tell the Truth, which I tell people the niggle, that's all about here with you. And it's about telling yourself the truth. And but yeah, a really big shift. And one of the things I really wanted to do was have more babies. I'm 37, so I knew there'd be an eyebrow or two raised. My daughter is 6, and so there was a lot of things. Plus, I'm ambitious, and I have some things I want to do in my life, and some collabs, and some things I want to try. And the number one thing I often heard was, "How are you going to do it all?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
I'll figure it out when I get there." But
Good for you. That's wonderful.
well, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, 37 is not too old to have a baby, even at 40, that's the whole thing. It's a myth, all this stuff.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I feel great, and I'm really grateful
Yeah.
for that. I
Yeah. And
really
you look wonderful. You look
thank you.
wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm still choosing to try to. My attitude with the first one was very much to continue to live my life and just include her in it. And if I needed to make adjustments, bend, flow, all that kind of good stuff. So with this one, we've continued to do the backcountry hiking that we love. We've continued to do a lot of those things, which I'll be honest, the naps are a little longer post those things, but really grateful for that, and certainly want to show other women you can be, do, and have it all. There will
Yeah.
be balance isn't a myth. It's just about knowing where your priorities might need to be and what might need to go on the shelf for a bit, or what you might need to adjust to be present in the moment. And I think that that's an ever changing, at least in my life, it's an ever changing thing. But
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, life is never going to be the same. I mean, as yesterday. It's the decisions that you make right now are going to impact whatever happens in future. I mean, even right today. So, so we can't be afraid of making those decisions. And a lot of people are so stressed out because they can't make decisions.
it's not something that we're taught. I think to make effective decisions, we're taught memorization. We're taught a lot of these things, and I'm not knocking any of them. But like emotional intelligence, it's not something that we're taught. We're not taught
Mm-hmm.
how to make a decision, how to weigh, make good decisions, and how to recognize once you've made a decision if you need to make another one. I know for myself as a leader and entrepreneur, we make a lot of decisions, oftentimes with not nearly enough information, but we
Nope.
make it. And then, it's not everybody who thinks the same way when we say, well, I made the decision, realize it's not the right decision. So now I'm making a different decision. And that's not a failure. That's a
No.
powerful thing to do, to say, nope, that's not what I need to be doing. We need to do this. And I think too many people are so afraid of the failure part of making a decision that it might not be the right one. I'm like, well, chances are it's not. It's more than likely not. And you'll
Yeah.
make an adjustment. That's okay too.
Yeah, making an adjustment is fine. I mean, making a different decision is perfectly valid.
Mhm.
I mean, you tried something out, it didn't work. I mean, it's all about experimenting. And I mean, so many people are so afraid to make that mistake
Mhm.
or those mistakes, and that's not living. They never find out if they could have done something that they really wanted to do. Instead, they're listening to their husbands, they're listening to their parents, and sometimes they're listening to their children, you
Mhm.
know, right? I mean, no, nobody else except you has the right to make the decision that you really want to make, and
Yeah,
go for it.
I
Go
run into
for
this a
it.
lot right now because
Hmm.
I've got choices. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm running into to that all the time. People questioning my decisions. I question my decisions, which I think is a good thing. Question your decisions, people. It's okay to ask yourself if you made the right one.
That's
Um,
right.
so you
Hmm.
can make the choice. And then also as a parent, because there's so many unique parenting styles and how you want to handle some of those things. and I'm involved in a mom's group, and I was just watching a lot of the things where people are running into people having an opinion about how someone's raising their child or choosing to bring that up. And I was reminded again the power of knowing yourself and what, taking the time
Mm-hmm.
to know what it is that you want to do, regardless of who might not love that particular decision. And then knowing how to communicate that, so that you can let them know what your boundaries are. And then I was thinking about how powerful boundaries are, and I'm a people pleaser, so boundaries were something I didn't have for a very long time.
Aren't
And
we all? Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's not like
something we learn. Yeah. Hopefully.
again, we're not taught about boundaries, we're taught about bullies, but we're not necessarily taught about, hey, here's how you know your boundary, establish your boundary, and then communicate your boundary, right? And so many people are like, well, I don't have boundaries. I'm like, well, dude, it's a whole process. Like, that's okay that you don't know it. Same as decisions, right? To know yourself, communicate that, and then to be able to reinforce it. It's so much easier when you come at it proactively than the other way around. But anyway, you got into Chinese medicine, which I'm fascinated by the way. I went to, I think, a herbalist one time, and he made me like stick out my tongue and all of that stuff. I was just fascinated. I did a few years of nurses training, and so I've always been kind of like, tell me more about that. So you got into Chinese medicine. This is where the doctor comes from.
Yeah, that's where, yeah, the doctor of acupuncture. That's where it comes from.
Beautiful. That was such a huge support for me first pregnancy. Not something I didn't
Yes.
before that, but post, whew, I was like, oh my goodness, that's my best friend. So you become this Chinese doctor. You now work with athletes on the resilience. Tell me how those two things came together, because I'm very curious.
Well, it really comes down to athletes are very highly motivated people. So, and they want to gain an edge. They have goals. They set goals. They usually know what they want.
Mhm.
Uh, they know that for the most part, they know that their body is their business, so they have to take care of it. And mental resilience is beginning to be on their radar. And since I was working with so-called ordinary people, and they were getting great results because it really came down to helping people to solve their biggest problems in their lives, and they never knew, what to do about them. I mean, for most of us, we have baggage, right? So we're always carrying around this heavy load on our shoulders, on our backs, and we can't seem to shake them off. And a lot of these things usually happen in childhood. Well, I mean, athletes are human, no different. However, they are extremely motivated because they love what they do. They've envisioned themselves in a certain way. They identify themselves as being athletes and, being a professional athlete,
Mhm.
they identify being an NFL football player, an NHL hockey player, or just being a professional athlete, period. So it doesn't matter who they're playing for, where they're playing, whether it's in Europe or even China or North America, South America, it doesn't matter. They just want to play professional sports. They're I mean, in a lot of ways, people say it's grown people playing kids sports, but it goes far beyond that, because being an an elite or professional athlete, man, you're working hard at it. You're practicing all the time. Now, the ones who think they've made it, those are the ones who fail and have a very short career. But the ones who really fully understand that they actually have control over their destiny and keep improving. Continuous improvement is just as important for the average person as it is for the pro athlete. So most people don't see all the work that they've put in, for the last,
Yeah.
for most of their lifetime, and after they finally think they've made it. So the ones who think they've made it and and just live on their laurels. They just don't go any further. But the ones who realize that, hey, I've got to figure things out so that that I actually have to do more work. Actually, they have to keep working at their craft. Those are the ones who continue to do very well. I mean, LeBron James, he spends up to 4 million on improving himself. Yeah, sure. People can say, well, he can afford it, but he's probably been doing this when he wasn't making anything. Tom Brady, yeah, I think he spends about 1 million, and he's they're very open-minded. So that really helps to be very open-minded and knowing that, I can improve. I can keep improving. Um, you know, I'm going to take an example of somebody who's been on the same job for 30 years. Like, I think how boring that is.
You're
uh,
just like me. I have a mad amount of respect because there's a few people in my world who are very steady for me. My dad, my life partner, who will work those 30-year jobs because it creates a stability for their families. Love that. I could not do it. And so, boring, very boring for me.
yeah, I mean, there's certain segment of the population that would find it very boring, and I certainly did. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the longest I'd ever been at a full-time job with anybody was 8 years, and I tried to make things happen, but I just wasn't the type of corporate person who was just going to lay down and just do as she was told. I mean, I was done with that, and yeah, totally done with that.
I follow. You're preaching to the choir right here, because and I've often been criticized for my inability to sort of stay, but in the last year, I've really sort of begun to hold it, not like armor as a protection, but just to sort of honor it in myself and go, yeah, I'm a starter. I'm an epic starter. I'm an ideas person. I'm not the middle person. That's not my awesome point. I'm also a great finisher. So bring me in to help bring something to conclusion or wrap it up or bring it together. And I've learned to attract those middle people who are like, okay, I got it now. I'll come back if I need something or an idea. And I think that goes back to the whole thing we were talking about before, resilience, knowing who you are, and also being like, hey, I don't like a job. I don't want to work a job, but this is what I do. That's fascinating. So fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a certain segment of the population which is very entrepreneurial, and it's the people that think for themselves. That, I mean, they'll ask for advice, sure they will, but they will take it into consideration based on where they want to go. Um, so people like us are hard to live with, you know.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, yeah, we're hard to live with. It always kind of looks chaotic to somebody who wants steady and stable. But I mean, since when is life ever steady and
Thank
stable?
you.
You know?
You. I love the word chaos. For me, it's a very feminine word. This is something I've been exploring, the balance between the masculine and feminine within each of us. I lived very much in my masculine energy for a long time, being an entrepreneur, very forward thinking, very get it done, to now choosing to embrace the more feminine side, the receiving, the flow, and now learning how to marry those two, right? How do I bring those two things together within my own self to find a balance in and of my own
Ah,
self, which has had a huge impact on every area of my life, most certainly my romantic relationship. Um, I was fortunate enough to find someone who was on a very similar, open minded, as you said, path to respecting those two sides that live within us and bringing them together, which has been a really interesting conversation. But, you're right. We're not easy to live with because it is kind of chaotic. And we're like, yeah, but we kind of thrive on that. It's every day different and we like it that way.
yeah, I mean, definitely. It's hard for some people to watch us, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that however had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera Company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee. But I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modera.ca. That's Modere, modera.ca, or modera.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen.
Very much.
But on the other hand, there are so many rewards. I mean, 2020 was an eye-opening year for sure. It was, yeah. So I've had to really think through what it is that I really want, and over the last few weeks, yeah, I really know how important something is to me now. But it took me quite a long time over 2020 to really understand what it is that I really do intend to do with the rest of my life. So, I mean, I'm a freedom lover. I mean, that's what an entrepreneur really is. I mean, it is about freedom. It is about the right to think for yourself and to make your own decisions and to, you know, and really the choices aren't really that multiple. It really comes down to, well, how productive is this going to make me, or how am I going to serve somebody the best that I can? How am I going to serve the world? I mean, it doesn't, you can be global, you can be local. You know, if you wanted to be a great mom or dad, yeah, you know, go for it. Because children definitely need our support and they need us to be around. They need us, they need us, they need to know that we're listening to them. Yeah. You know, I have some friends who have homeschooled their children for a very long time. But the kids aren't alone. They actually have micro schools, so there is some socializing. So that's good.
Yep.
But the kids are so mature. The kids are a lot more. Yeah.
And I can see how it set me up as an entrepreneur, to be an entrepreneur. One of the things I didn't need to be taught was time management, because I've been managing my own time and my own workflows and my own energies. And okay, you know, this has come up because I grew up on a working farm. So, you know, when there was time to work, we worked, and it may not have been, you know, the schoolwork, but we always got stuff done. And, you know, we made decisions. If we go away as a family for these 4 days, that means we're going to have to make up later, which I think is huge and something I've been doing with my daughter. You know, with an eye to socialization. But even with that, I've been having this conversation recently that, you know, social media and the social world has moved online. And so I've been doing some classes, especially through COVID and stuff, online, as she's been interacting with children all over North America. And
All
she's made
right.
friends that way. And you know, the question was, well,
Hmm.
are they is there validity there? And I'm like, if there's validity in romantic relationships that eventually become marriages and other such things, why can't a friendship begin online and then begin
Yeah.
to go from there? And so it's a neat place to be a parent right now, but certainly again, the emotional intelligence piece comes up a lot because I'm like, wow, you need to, you know, interact here, not just in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah. Social media, you've got to be really careful with that. People are vulnerable on social media. And well, let's talk about social media for a little while because people were talking about bullying for quite a while.
They were.
Okay. And yes, there were kids who were committing suicide, and even young adults were committing suicide. But I mean, to me, okay, it really comes down to removing the source of the bullying. I mean, it's just common sense to me. So delete the darn things. And that's exactly what a friend of mine did. She deleted all her kids' social media accounts so he wouldn't be bullied anymore. And that's just common sense. Don't just try to fight it. You can just take it away.
I really love that you brought that up because I know that one of the things I do for me, you know, having been a people pleaser, and then as I've been sort of sitting out and realizing it wasn't just things and activities that were not serving where I wanted to go. And I had listened to a gal online who said that she had unfollowed in order to really find her own voice. And that intrigued me. So I was like, what would people think of me if I started unfollowing? And then I started, and the amount of peace that this brought to my life, incredible. And I've continued to do it. And the odd time someone comes back and says, how come we're not friends anymore? And I have the opportunity to say, well, I felt like we were misaligned on this particular issue. And so I unfollowed. And sometimes we've had some amazing conversations. Sometimes people are, you know, PO'd, and that's okay too. But the amount of peace I have since I've started to do that makes me think, yeah, that's like exactly the attitude I'll take with my daughter when she is on social media, to be like, you don't have to choose to stay in the abusive relationship,
Yeah.
regardless of who the other person is. You owe them nothing. Your mental space is just not worth it. Period.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
I
Good.
love more women to hear that. Like, seriously.
Yeah, yeah, seriously, it's true. If there's things that you don't want to see, things that you don't want to hear, you can the power of delete is very powerful, that little
Feels good
finger,
too.
the index finger to hit delete, or unfriend, that those buttons are right there. That's why they're there for you, because you can make the choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've no matter what our opinions are, we always have that choice of unfriending people. um, so it's really not that hard to get rid of cyberbullying, for example,
No.
because there's a lot of it going on right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of different people before we got on our call here, I was actually listening um, to a few gentlemen talk on YouTube about people who had trolled them for standing up. And these are professionals, you know, degrees and all this other stuff. And they were talking about how we really don't understand the effects of social media. And I've often felt that it's been a huge opportunity for me, some amazing good. You know, but they were talking very specifically, like we don't really know. And I agree. I don't think we know. I think there's a human experiment happening in a lot of different ways, with a lot of different things. Life moves at a certain pace right now, and social
Mm-hmm.
media is certainly one of them. that
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah. Yeah. There's censorship going on. I mean, there's heavy, heavy censorship going on.
Mhm.
I was actually away in a houseboat for the last week.
Oh,
So, yeah. So I'm going to say this is with our Freedom family.
nice.
And it was so much fun, like minded people. And we did some brainstorming and things like that too. Because a lot of things are going to be happening over the next week, at least. I can't see what's going on in the future, but we're going to be taking steps and taking actions, and so that mental resilience comes in because you're problem solving too.
Mhm.
So fear, self-doubt have a huge impact on your mental, on the ability to exercise your mental resilience.
Mhm.
Huge impact, because if you're too afraid and you want to please people, which means agreeing with them no matter what they're saying, then man, you're not going to be very resilient at all. I mean, so mental resilience means having courage as well.
I like the word courage. So I did an exercise a couple of years ago now, I guess, on picking, you know, my core value words. And I whittled it basically down to 10. You know, and then there's ones that have really stood out for me. And I left it at 10 because I kind of wanted to see, you know, what would keep coming up, right? And I remember specifically looking at the definitions between the word brave and the word courage, because they often interchange, but you know, they mean different.
Yeah.
And that
Ah.
was a really powerful experience to me. Like I didn't have love on my original list, but I ended up putting it on there because I originally thought it was kindness, and I realized no, you know, the definition. And so I often encourage people to take some time to go and figure out what those are. Even if you can't get them down to 2 or 3, start with 10, and then let your life sort of define what they are. And freedom was one of the words that was on there, and certainly has a huge impact. And then, you know, which ones can you group under that? You know, self-expression is something I'm really passionate about. And but is that actually freedom? Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, freedom of self-expression, right? So it was really
Yeah.
interesting for me to see how my life had defined itself. And then as I stepped into, you know, new business partnerships or new relationship, as I did, you know, and you're asking some of those tough questions, I said, well, I can make it easier for you. I've got my core values right here. And was
Oh,
quite
wow.
it was very fun. And then for him to flip through his journal and go, here's mine. And I'm like, all right. And
Oh,
to be able to
wow.
compare those two things. But you know, it's not just in, you know, romantic relationships, even just with friendships too, which I have found to be just incredibly cool when you're talking to someone, you say my core values are, and they go, oh, mine are these. And it's interesting to see that overlap and how
Mm.
powerful that is. I'm gonna have to look.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do that too. Share
It's
mine with my friends and have them share theirs, because yeah, that would be very interesting. I mean, I've made so many friends in over the past year. It's been incredible. So yeah, it's been the best year, definitely because of that, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I've enjoyed, I know a lot of people have struggled with, you know, communicating through a box or through this. For me, it felt like, and I think it's because of the people pleasing tendencies, because everything did a hard stop. It was like I was released to really figure out what I was going to want to add back in. And I spent a long time thinking about things that I was doing, both as a career or, you know, as passion projects, you know, or just things that I did just because I had done them. And I was like, did I really need to be doing them for the last year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years? I don't know. And how, as an entrepreneur, the number of people I had time to pick up the phone and call, A, I knew they were going to be home because nobody was working. So I was like, hey, you're also home at 10 o'clock in the morning. Hi, let's have a conversation while I have coffee. But I remember thinking to myself, I could have established some of these routines in terms of connection with people, because as an introvert, I love the one-on-one. That's my jam. I could have established that before. Why didn't I establish that before? And so for me, there was a lot of moments in the last year and a half where I was like, duh, right? Which I think for a lot of people, the last year was kind of like, that sort of a thing. I know for a lot of us, we had to learn a new skill. We had to, a lot of us cut our own hair, right? I think it was a really interesting year. I learned how to do my own threading because, I couldn't go see my girl and I was like, we need to take care of some of this. So it was honestly a lot of fun. Some of the things that happened in the last year.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued. I have absolutely adored our conversation today.
Oh, thank you. This has been wonderful. I totally agree. I mean, you're a very awake young woman.
Thank
Yes.
you. I feel very, very blessed for the life I've been able to lead up until now. And the podcast started because I wanted to put out positive content for people. And it has continued because I get so much joy out of it. The coolest people I get to talk to, in this way and sort of share it. I think I was blessed to grow up because of the home education. I communicated with a lot of different people, the least amount with my peer group, which brought its own challenges, for sure. But I communicated with all kinds of people and interacted with all kinds of people. I grew up in a small farming community. And so family, community, these sorts of things were a big deal, right? My grandpa did business on handshakes. And so communications and clear communication was a big deal. And fast forward to this, and it seems to have set me up perfectly to be, a podcaster and meet new people, just because I'm genuinely fascinated by people and our differences, and also how close we often are, regardless of upbringing and spaces and stuff. It's like, wow, we actually understand each other. Tell me more about that. So I do want to open it up. If there was something that you wanted to leave the listeners with, or a thought, or something you're thinking about, that would be an opportune time for us to leave them with that.
Well, life looks like it always has its ups and downs, but it doesn't have to be. There are lessons to be learned from what we just went through 2020 and still ongoing. Okay, so life doesn't have to have its ups and downs. The mental resilience part is so important simply because you have trust in life, you have trust in yourself, and you will attract the necessary resources. And it doesn't matter whether it's people or things or, maybe even a country, products that will be more suitable for whatever that you want to do. So you got to have trust in life, and you got to ask for help. Now, what I've discovered in the last, since December, is that hierarchy was invented some 5,000 years ago. And it started with the advent of reading and writing. And so you started having people in those times that said, well, I know more than you do, so I'm better than you are. So there was this invention of superiority and inferiority. And then 3,000 years ago, it really came down to formalized religions. And again, hierarchy. The hierarchy only got worse. And people dominating over others and telling the majority of people that, you're not really very smart. You're not worthy. You have to follow me. I'll tell you what to do. So they tell us what to think, but they never taught us how to think. And that has been the goal, is telling us what to think. And so therefore, through all those thousands of generations, too many of us have been brainwashed into thinking that we are far lesser than what we really are. So most of the world since that time, because before 5,000 years, people could travel wherever they want. If they settled in one place and they liked it, they stayed. If they didn't like it or they wanted to change, they could just pick up everything and move. So there are no physical borders, no mental borders. But with the advent of all this, that started 5,000 years ago, most people have ancestors who were enslaved. Okay? It didn't matter where you came from, what your background was, what color of skin that you had. More than likely, you were enslaved or under a lord due to feudalism. You had no rights. You had no choice. And so look at where we are today. So the world, I mean, for a few people who think that they're really powerful, they want us to go back to those times. But we're not going back. We're not going back. We're going to make sure that people are more freer than ever. So for all of us who are here on this earth today, we have the tough son of a gun genes that our ancestors gave us. Okay, we're tougher than we think. We're stronger than we think. That's the message that I want to give people.
What a way to end the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am truly honored.
It was my pleasure. And yes, it's been a remarkable 1 hour for sure.
Oh my goodness. And for the rest of you, you know the drill. If you got value out of this, like, comment, share. It means the absolute world to those of us who are taking time out to put out the content and make the time to connect and show up with all kinds of authenticity and transparency and have these conversations in front of you, really, and open up and bring some other thoughts to the forefront. To my guest, Dr. Joanny, thank you again so much for joining me. And to the rest of you,
Thank you.
I will catch you on the flip side.